Hi,
בוקר טוב,
good morning. Shalom, Chana, Boker Tov.
שלום.
Here,
אז מה נשמע?
again, Baruch Hashem. Rak, I'll teach Kechila Sod mute, okay? I'll,
כן.
microphone. Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the myriads of participants in the shiur. So, what I'd like to do is just briefly review one last point and tell you a little very famous story to illustrate that point. We talked about the relationship between an individual doing tshuva and kind of cosmic tshuva, what's going on a kind of a global level and the interface between the two. And we talked about the danger of this idea because people are attracted to the idea because we all have sort of an idealistic element within us. Maybe we could call it grandiose, maybe in more pathological terms, a kind of grandiose element within us that wants to perfect the world. Whether you're Karl Marx or Zev Steiner, right? Think big, lahavdil. So I just had to get you back there for what you didn't say, but okay. In any case, the mistake could be that a person will focus on the macro, thing going on in the news and a complete fetching about the Obama administration all the time, or this or that, or BDS or whatever it is, and they forget to on the nitty gritty details of their own life to focus on that, because one cannot change the world until one works on those micro aspects of one's personality. So there's a famous story that Rav Aviner quotes about a person who goes to the rabbi and says, "Rabbi, I would like to go do tikkun olam. I want to go fix the world." So the rabbi says, "Okay, good luck." So the month later, this person comes back and he says to his rabbi, I guess it didn't work. Didn't work out so well fixing the world. So you know what? I decided I'm going to fix the country. I'll scale down a little bit. Okay. The rabbi says, "Batzlacha, good luck." Comes back a month later. He says to the rabbi, "I guess I didn't succeed at that. How about I'll work on Sacramento. I'm going to fix Sacramento." The rabbi says, "Good luck." So after a month, he comes back. He says, "I guess it didn't work out so, but I'll focus on Carmichael." A little bit more doable. So the rabbi says, "Yeah, fine, go ahead." Comes back a month later. You can sort of see where this is going. He says, "I wasn't successful, but you know what? I'm going to fix the Zeph family." That should be a can-do proposition. It's small. So the rabbi says, "Good luck." Comes back a month later, and he says, it didn't work out so well. I'll just fix myself." So that's
and he hasn't come back yet.
right. That's a lifelong proposition. Absolutely. Okay. And in this, just to put sort of a final closure on this idea, there's a passage in the Talmud that says the following: "Gedolat tshuva shebishvil yachid shasat tshuva mochin lechol olam kulo." And before I translate that, I just want to preface it. We sometimes think, because Rav Kook has a very fresh way of saying things, he doesn't speak in Talmudic Hebrew. He uses kind of fresh language, kind of poetic language, and sometimes, for most mortals, unintelligible language occasionally. So we sort of think of his ideas as, wait, is this kosher? Is this a Jewish idea? It's so the Talmud says the following: great is tshuva, that as a consequence of the tshuva of the individual, he is forgiven and the whole world is forgiven. So that's the Gemara saying the exact same idea. What does it have to do with the whole world? That's the power of doing tshuva as an individual, right? Mochlin lechol ha'olam kulo, the Gemara says, that the entire world is in fact forgiven. Man, that's power.
So I think what happens is if one person does it, and again, as being the light unto the nations, and people see that, it might be a catalyst to motivate someone else to do it. And then it snowballs so that each person does. Of course, it's going to change
It's like
the
paying
world.
it forward in a way. You're kind of somebody. I mean, even if you're just like driving down Phillips Boulevard, it's really busy, and you see somebody in one of those side streets, and you kind of just hang back when the light changes to let them go,
Yeah,
and then that person maybe they pass that on. That little
Yeah.
act of kindness where it builds up a little bit.
yeah. Okay, beautiful. So the Steiners had a little tag team there saying the similar point that one could explain this idea of how it is that if one person does tshuva, somehow the whole world is forgiven. So one could explain in sort of a natural way that it sets an example, that there's a kind of ripple effect. This idea that's become popular. I think there's even was a movie, pass it forward, right, kind of thing, which is sort of a natural psychological idea. There's a famous passage in a pasuk that talks about that like a face is reflected in the water, a very famous passage. So too is the heart of a man to another man, that just like there's a reflection, like, you smile, it tends to evoke a smile, not always. Tends to evoke how dare you smile at me? You dissing me, right? So you got to be careful a little bit, but generally speaking, that's the way things work. I'm sure you're right. Rough Cook actually means something also mystical, that there's a mystical energy. It's not simply like you're saying, which is not simple, but it's not just natural, but it's actually mystical, that there's a kind of, we've talked for 4.5 years about the idea of kind of the mystical plumbing system which exists in the whole world, or sort of electrical circuitry, whichever image we want to use. And when one creates a kind of a positive current, it injects it into the system, it affects the whole system in ways that are not explainable in kind of rational or scientific terms. Okay, let's go on now. We're on chapter 4 and subparagraph 6. Okay, parak daled and passage number 6. Rosh hapiska shel nishmat ha'uma. Everybody see where we are? Hi hamigama haklalit שהאומה שואפת אליה בעצם הווייתה, וזה כבר יוצא על כללות ההוויה ורעיון התשובה העליון נעוץ מרום חביון זה. Okay, the very height, I think we even might have read this at the very last moment yesterday, the very height of the soul of the nation is the universal goal, right? It's embedded in the very essence of who we are. I mentioned yesterday that it has to do with Abraham's job description, that embedded in our soul is the collective good. And this is this concept of tshuva is embedded deeply in this hidden idea, in this hidden lofty idea of rectification of the klal. Okay. Let's now go on to the next sub-paragraph, which is number 7. Nishmata shel Knesset Yisrael hi hatzedek hamuchlat, shebehit gashmuto hu kolel et kol hatov hamusari shebefol. Al kain kol begam, I'll translate in a second, musari sha'isha yechidi Yisrael oseh, machlish hu vazeh kishuro im nishmat ha'uma kula. והתשובה הראשונה יסודית היא להתקשר עם האומה בנשמתה, ומה הכרח הוא לתקן את הדרכים במעשים כולם לפי אותו התוכן המהותי שבנשמת האומה. Yeah, okay, let's move on. Okay, so he says the following. The soul of Knesset Yisrael. Now, I want to explain something. It's very important. When you hear the term Knesset Yisrael, well, lo and behold, that's our ID number. Right? This is Knesset Yisrael Torah Center, commonly called Kaf Yud. That's what it's commonly known out there in the circles, right? Kaf Yud. Where do you daven? Kaf Yud. Okay, Knesset Israel, Knesset Israel. It doesn't mean what people think it means of like a group of people, because Knesset means gathering of people. That's why like the Israeli parliament is called a Knesset, gathering people. And a shul is called Beit Knesset, like a place where you gather. It's actually a Kabbalistic term, Knesset Israel, and it's referring to the collective soul of the Jewish people, Knesset Israel. That's what that means in Kabbalah. So Rav Kook is saying that that collective soul of the Jewish people is one and the same as absolute righteousness. That's the nature of that collective soul, right? On a kind of more human psychological level, all of us have very complex personalities, all kinds of nooks and crannies and chamates, dark places, light places. We're all very complex. But that's only in terms of our individual personalities. In terms of the mystical essence, that super soul, which is a collective soul which we all share. And we sometimes talk about all Jews as being kind of different limbs of the same body. Well, just like that a body has a soul, so too the collective body of the Jewish people has a soul. That's Knesset Israel. And that is the same thing as tzedek muchlat, absolute righteous behavior. That's who we are in our essence. And that, when it's manifested, encompasses all ethical good in actuality. That means a righteous nation. Doesn't mean that we act righteously. It means that's who we really are. We're constantly betraying who we are as individuals and as a nation. We're not talking about rah, 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 look in the mirror how great we are. Right? It's saying X-ray our inner soul. Our inner soul is pure righteousness. Now let's act in a way which is harmonious to our authentic essence. Therefore, every time there's any ethical defect with regard to an individual Jew, you know what happens? That individual defect in me, in terms of my own personal private behavior, it weakens my bond with the collective soul. Because since the collective soul of the Jewish people is absolute righteousness, when I behave in a way which is not in alignment with perfect righteousness, I'm disconnecting myself from the essence of the connection I have with the super soul of the nation, which is perfect righteousness. Every time we behave improperly, it's, imagine, I'll use an image which the Baal HaTanya, the author of Tanya, Rabbi Shneur Zalman Avedi, uses. There's a pasuk, Yaakov Chevel Nachlato, that Jacob is, you could translate literally, the rope of God's inheritance. Rope. Now, rope is made, there's a difference between a rope and a string, right? String is one strand. A rope is composed of a lot of strands that are woven together, whatever, right? I'm not sure what the right word would be, twisted together in a way which makes this very sturdy rope. All of us as individuals are connected to divine essence. Okay? Make sure your microphones are muted out there. All of our souls are connected to our divine essence, the super soul, which is perfect righteousness, through a rope. Imagine it's like an umbilical cord, like a fetus with an umbilical cord. That rope, guess what? How many strands it has? 613. 613 strands all woven together. Every time we behave in a way, make sure your microphones are muted, please. Every time one of those 613 strands is broken, right? If we behave in a way which, make sure, Chana, ulai המיקרופון שלך לא on mute. אנחנו שומעים משהו. And also Mimi, make sure your microphone is on mute. So every time one of those strands, from the sublime to the mundane, We're talking about very profound ideas. By the way, mute your microphone and can you put the coffee on, please? And did someone feed the dog? Oh, where were we? Oh, yes. Every time one of those cosmic strands. Hana. Okay, everybody, please mute your microphones. Okay, we only have a few minutes left anyway. So we have this connection of 613 strands. You know, if we do a transgression, you know what it does? That strand is snapped. So what that does is sever our connection to Knesset Yisrael, our source, our divine source, right? And so you realize what that does. So not only does it weaken us, right? Because like imagine that umbilical cord. Imagine a baby in the mother's womb and there's something wrong with the umbilical cord. That happens. Become oxygen deprived, right? So how does one do tshuva? So Rav Kook says that the first step in doing tshuva, the most fundamental step, is connect yourself to your source. Reconnect, try to repair that strand. And that strand is our connection to the Knesset Yisrael. See, it's really, we've talked about this in the past in different contexts. It's an unbelievable idea if you diagram this. Okay, there is Levi Abraham over here. He's connected with this 613 stranded umbilical cord to this power of divine life source called Knesset Yisrael. It's this big power generating station. And that Knesset Yisrael is connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So, you know, people say, oh, Judaism, we don't believe in intermediaries. It's actually not quite true. There is an intermediary. Between Levi Avraham and a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that intermediary is the collective soul of the Jewish nation. And Levi Avraham is nourished, energized, and made holy through that holy rays that come from a Kadosh Baruch Hu into the collective soul, this collective battery of the Jewish people, and into his own personal being. So when we want to do tshuva, you know what we first do is say, I want to reconnect to the super soul of the Jewish nation. This is an amazing idea, because a person would think, I want to reconnect myself to God. Not so fast, Kowalski. Right? You say, I want to connect to the Jewish nation. That's why Rav Kook saw a special quality, even when people are misguided, who feel very passionate about the Jewish nation in a misguided way, that there's something fundamentally good about that, even though it's misguided. Because this groping, sometimes misguided attempt at connecting to the super soul of the Jewish nation is the right direction. You have to know how to go about doing it. You know, you're trying to imagine you got the plug of your computer and you need to plug it into its power source, but you don't know where the socket is, right? So you got the right idea, except you got to know where the socket is. Okay, so that has to be the first way. Attach oneself to the nation. That's, by the way, I had an interesting experience where there was an issue of somebody converting to Judaism, and they would be completely religious, like observe all the mitzvahs, but not live anywhere near a Jewish community. And someone discussed it with me and said, at first, because I'm a nice guy, it's something too nice, at least publicly, and someone said, another rabbi said to me, that's a fundamental, like, it doesn't work that way. One cannot actualize who we are as Jews without that connection to the Jewish people. You can't live in a Tascadero. I think there's a place like that. There's a prison there, right? And say I'm going to observe the Shulchan Aruch, right? And somehow actualize what it means to be a Jew. One has to plug in to the super soul of the collective nation, because that is the intermediary between us and divinity. That's the first step. Okay, we'll pause on that note. We'll go on Bezrat Hashem on Monday.